If you were the Supreme Self, what would you do? I mean, would you just sit there and be blissfully one and everything, forever and ever and ever? No, obviously not. You would play games. You would, in other words, for the very nature of the fact that I said, no energy system is an energy system unless it lets go of itself. So you would let go of yourself. And you would get lost. And you get involved in all sorts of adventures. And you would forget who you were. Just as when you play a game, playing poker. And although you're only playing for dimes or for chips, you get absorbed in the game. And nothing really important to win, nothing really important to lose, and yet it becomes fantastically interesting who wins and who loses. And so in the same way it is said that the Supreme Self gets absorbed through ever so many different channels, which we call all the different beings, in the plot, just like an artist or a writer gets completely absorbed in the artistic creation that he's doing, or an actor gets absorbed in the part in the drama. At first we know it's a drama. We go to a play and we say it's only a play, and the proscenium arch tells us that what happens behind that arch is not for real, just a show. But the great actor is going to make you forget it's just a show. He's going to have you sitting on the edge of your chair. He's going to have you crying. He's going to have you trembling, because he almost persuades you that it's real. And what would happen if the very best actor was confronted by the very best audience? Why, they'd be taken in completely. And the one would confirm the other. So this is the idea of the universe as drama. That the fundamental self, the Saguna, Brahman, plays this game, gets involved in being all of us, and does it so damn well, it's so superbly acted that the thing appears to be real. And we're not only sitting on the edge of our chair, but we start to get up and throw things. We join in the drama, and it all becomes whatever it is that's going on here, you see? Then, of course, at the end of the drama, because all things have to have an end that have a beginning, the curtain goes down and the actors retire to the green room. And there the villain and the hero cease to be villain and hero, and they're just the actor. And then they come out in front of the curtain and they stand in a row, and the audience applauds the villain along with the hero. The villain for having been a good villain, the hero for having been a great hero. The play is over. And everybody heaves a sigh of relief. Well, that was a great show, wasn't it? All this world is a big act. Leela, the play of the Supreme Self. And it's therefore compared to a dream, to a passing illusion. And you should not therefore take it serious. Although that, of course, is involved. We do take it seriously. But you see, one of the great questions that you have to ask yourself, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty about your own inmost core, is, are you serious? Or do you know deep within you that you're a put-on?
The fans of Alan Watts want a fucking fan, a true fan, a motherfucker who gets what the motherfucker was saying. That's who we want to fucking do an interview. Someone who got him. someone who appreciated what he was imparting about this world being a dream, about it being a play. And he, towards the end of his life, started using terms like green room and saying that there's agreements in the green room before we take to the stage, and then after the curtain comes down we return to the green room. But while we're on stage, we're wearing the mask, we're playing a role, and we can't stop playing it. We can't stop pretending. We're caught up in it until the curtain comes down. Well, these were metaphors, and they are meant to be taken literally, but they had to be processed further. But Alan died. He died at 58 and didn't have enough time to process them. Well, we're human beings, and as someone once said, we all share the same cognitive space. We all share, really generally speaking, a network of one consciousness, even as fucking human beings, never mind as spirits. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know where Alan picked the ball up on the football field. I'm talking American football. I don't know where he picked it up on the field, but let's say he picked it up, on his own 25-yard line. That motherfucker got that ball all the way down the field, all the way to the 5-yard line. And then he died. He got it down to the 5-yard line. So because we're human, he was human, I'm human, it's bound to happen that some human's going to come along and pick that ball up and, take it across the fucking line, man. Take it in for a goal. That's why I say I stand on his shoulders. But I also stand on the shoulders of Helen Schucman as well. She wrote the summary for A Course in Miracles. But nonetheless, so in taking that ball, the last 5 yards is just a process. That idea of Alan Watts's, which he apparently derived from, got from Hinduism. And the aspect of Hinduism that says this is all a dream. And although it doesn't use the word specifically, we can say, after all these thousands of years after Hinduism was invented, so to speak, we can say after thousands of years, we can speak in a clearer language about it. And instead of using the word Brahma or Brahman or anything like that, we can use the phrase perfect eternal conscious energy. So when Alan was talking about this life being a play, and that there's agreements made in the green room before the curtain goes up, he was implying agreements such as relationships. All right, I'm going to be the bad guy and you're going to be the victim. I'm going to be the son and you're going to be the father who puts his cigars out on his son's back. Or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? So, but we got to really, we got to move from metaphor into very concrete, simple, easy to understand logic and reason. And so what Alan never did, he did it in a roundabout way, but what he never did specifically or concretely was to, once and for all define this redefine this fucking word God. Because as soon as you mention the word God, you think of a fatherly, invisible figure. You can't help it. You think of a puppet master God. You think of a puppet master. You think of some, singular entity, that's dreaming this. And even if you use the word Brahman or something like that, it's still implying some person, something other than you, that is having this dream. And that's sick. That's no fun. That's not good enough. I mean, it's better than the paradigm that it's a puppet master God and it created you and it gave you a choice to be good or be bad, and you chose to be bad and now you must suffer. I mean, it's a better paradigm than that, but it's not. You got to take it to the utmost extreme. You've got to take it all the way to the end, all the way. And when I had my experience with cosmic consciousness, in that beautiful October evening of 1988, I knew temporarily, without the slightest doubt whatsoever, there was no conviction, there was no belief, it was just pure knowledge. I knew that what we call the truth, what we call the true answers to the fundamental philosophical, spiritual enlightenment questions, those answers they absolutely have to conform, they have to measure up to the epitome of simplicity, fearlessness, and good news. Means there can't be any fear in the paradigm whatsoever. There can't be any fear in those answers to those three fundamental questions. Can be no fear whatsoever. And it has to be the epitome of simplicity, the utmost in simplicity. Not complexity, simplicity. And it has to be 100% fearless. The answers to the three fundamental questions of philosophy, spirituality, and enlightenment, which we call philobabble, those answers cannot frighten anyone with an average intelligence. So you're talking metaphor when you talk about green room and agreements in the green room before the curtain goes up. And like I said, Alan, I mean, there's times in his lectures when he does sort of redefine, give you a better definition of what God is, but he didn't do it enough, and he didn't sort of stick to it. That is to say, repeat it over and over and over. He didn't do that. It's just occasionally it would pop up. He would refer to God as something like the original primal consciousness, which I would agree with, the original reality. See, it's much easier to look at this, when you think about life, it's much easier to think in terms of eternal and temporary, spiritual and physical, reality, dream. Just two worlds, not a bunch of different worlds. Yes, within the dream world, within a dream universe, it can be amazingly fucking complex, and there can be worlds within worlds, and Jesus Christ, wheels within wheels within wheels. But so-called philosophically speaking, there's just two realities. There's your spiritual reality, which is an eternal reality, which means it's always existed. It never had a beginning. That means there was no creator of it. There is no source to it. And then there's the temporary reality, the mortal reality, the physical world. And obviously the physical temporary world can't create itself, and it obviously is logical and reasonable that an eternal consciousness is going to be responsible for the creation of a temporary conscious experience. So I believe that had Alan lived another 5 or 10 years, he would have redefined God to something like what I am now known for saying. He would have redefined God as perfect, eternal, conscious energy. He would have redefined life once and for all. What is life? Life is not biology. Life is consciousness.
I wonder what you would do if you had the power to dream at night any dream you wanted to dream. And you would, of course, be able to alter your time sense and slip, say, 75 years of subjective time into 8 hours of sleep. You would, I suppose, start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You could design for yourself what would be the most ecstatic life. Love affairs, banquets, dancing girls, wonderful journeys, gardens, music beyond belief. And then after a couple of months, of this sort of thing at 75 years a night, you would be getting a little taste for something different. And you would move over to an adventurous dimension, where there were certain dangers involved and the thrill of dealing with dangers. And you could rescue princesses from dragons and go on dangerous journeys, make wonderful explosions and blow them up, eventually get into contest with enemies. And after you've done that for some time, you'd think up a new wrinkle to forget that you were dreaming, so that you would think it was all for real, and to be anxious about it. And then, because it'd be so great when you woke up, and then you'd say, well, like children who dare each other on things, how far out could you get? What could you take? What dimension of being lost, of abandonment of your power, what dimension of that could you stand? You could ask yourself this because you know you'd eventually wake up. And after you'd gone on doing this, you see, for some time, you would suddenly find yourselves sitting around in this room with all your personal involvements, problems, etc., talking with me. How do you know that's not what you're doing? Could be. Because after all, what would you do if you were God? If you were what there is, the self. When asked who is there, says it is I, and thereafter gives whatever particular name he may have. For if you were God, and in this sense that you knew everything, and you were completely transparent to yourself through and through, you would be bored. Because if, looking at it from another way, we push technology to its furthest possible development, and we had, instead of a dial telephone on one's desk, a more complex system of buttons, and one touch, beep, would give you anything you wanted. Aladdin's lamp. You would eventually have to introduce a button labeled surprise. Because all perfectly known futures, as I pointed out, are past. They have happened, virtually. It is only the true future is a surprise.
If you're not conscious of it, it don't fucking exist. Sorry, it may as well not exist if you're not conscious of it. And so life is consciousness. What is consciousness? That's to some people that's a fancy word. That's a frightening word. That's too technical for me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna watch Pootie Pie or Lady Gaga. I'm not gonna listen to this Al Newport. Consciousness is thinking and feeling. That's all it is. You are a thinking, feeling entity who knows it is a thinking, feeling entity. That is life. That's all life could ever be. That's all life has ever been. It's just what we humans intentionally chose to forget was that consciousness is eternal and it's perfect. It's perfect because it's eternal. Because at what point in forever would you begin to approve, and at what point in forever would you then thus conclude that you have reached your improvement? So you are a perfect thinking, feeling entity who has always been a perfect thinking, feeling entity. You have a, what would you say? You have a family of an infinite number of other perfect thinking, feeling entities. You are all perfectly equal and equally perfect to each other. Not one of you is older or younger dumber or smarter than another. Not one of you is more evil or less evil, more divine or less divine. You are perfect, eternal, conscious energy. You are an eternal, thinking, feeling entity. What are you to do with your ability to think and feel forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? It's the equivalent of like being in a cave or being in a room all by yourself. What are you going to do by yourself forever and ever and ever? You have the ability to think and feel, and you can't help it. The fact that you are aware of the fact that you exist. You are aware of the fact that you think and feel, and you are aware that you are amongst your equals who also think and feel. Because you're eternal, you are real. That is the only thing that is actually real, that which is eternal. And the only thing that is eternal is perfect eternal conscious energy. Perfect spirits are the only thing that is real. So, you're a thinking, feeling entity. You've always been a thinking, feeling entity. You don't have to have a body. You don't have to have a face. You don't have to have a brain. You don't have to have eyes, ears. You don't have to have any kind of physical body or any body whatsoever in order to be a thinking, feeling entity who has always been alive as a thinking, feeling entity. There is only perfect eternal conscious energy. That is not an energy like air. That's not an energy like space between the fingers, between the stars, between the leaves on the tree. No, perfect eternal conscious energy is a thinking, feeling entity. And that's all there actually is, are an infinite number of thinking, feeling entities. So what do we call their home state of awareness? We call it reality heaven, or we call it reality, or you call it the original reality. So what are you to do in your original reality, in your home state of awareness, as a spirit, as a perfect spirit, as a thinking, feeling entity who can think whatever it wants to think and feel whatever it wants to feel and dream whatever it wants to dream? What's it to do throughout forever and ever? Well, obviously because it has the ability to dream, to think out and script and plan and design spiritual movies which it can then experience as if they're the only conscious experience it's ever had or will have. And that's what we're doing here. So Alan would talk about the green room and the play. Well, he would have eventually taken it, to the nth degree, and done away with that metaphor and taken it, completely serious to the end. And the end would be that, obviously, these so-called agreements that you're making in the green room, well, who's doing that? Who's making the agreements? Well, obviously the participants. Well, what are the participants that are making the agreements in the green room before the fucking curtain goes up, before the play begins? Who are these participants? Well, he would have identified each participant as a perfect spirit, as perfect eternal conscious energy. Now, in his lifetime, he seemed to studiously avoid words like spirit and soul. And he didn't like to speculate about the afterlife. He preferred, it seems, to believe that it would be like going to sleep and not waking up. But he also reckoned that if this conscious experience that we're having, this conscious world, if this could happen once, then it could happen again. And he was completely at peace with that. For me, that's repulsive and repugnant. I don't like that idea of going to sleep and never waking up and just take it for granted that, well, maybe someday, obviously someday, could be zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions and zillions of years away, that this could all start all over again. I don't like that idea. So he would have taken the idea of the green room. He would have said that instead of just saying green room, he would have said that before the Big Bang, we as conscious entities colluded and collaborated with each other planned our relationships, planned our itineraries, planned our schedules, planned our diseases, our illnesses, our injuries, our fortunes, our misfortunes, our moments of utter boredom, our moments of overwhelming grief, our moments of happiness, our moments of peace. We planned everything. In fact, we spent more time before the Big Bang thinking up this world, thinking up the story that we would live out than it actually takes to live out. I wouldn't be surprised if we spent the equivalent of thousands of years thinking out this world, thinking out this life in every detail for every moment before the Big Bang. And then it unfolds and unfurls automatically. And all it takes, I guess, to activate the Big Bang is that all the participating spirits, and that's every living creature. You have to remember perfect eternal conscious energy. Just because perfect eternal conscious energy, the perfect spirit, has written a role called Alexander T. Newport, this particular spirit could have chosen to be a fucking cactus, could have chosen to be a bed bug, a parasite, a flea, a fly, a fucking pineapple. But this time around, it's scheduled for itself to be a human. Well, these spirits, once they're all satisfied with their schedule, with their itinerary, with their script, with how their movie is going to play out, and all the relationships have been established, all the agreements have been made, this includes the spirits that are going to be your dog and cat, the spirits that are going to be the food on your plate, the potatoes, the carrots, the pig, the cow, the chicken, the fish, and so forth. After all these relationships, after all the plans have been finalized, then we obviously, in order to initiate the Big Bang, which causes the unfolding and unfurling of this beautiful, magnificent design, this incredibly choreographed spiritual movie, in order to initiate the Big Bang, we all choose to forget that we are perfect eternal conscious energy. And in doing so, you also forget you're the fucking author of this experience. You have to notice that every living being that's here and that has been here on this planet has had a life of suffering off and on throughout its existence. It's had an ice cream and shit existence. It's had moments of niceness and moments of horribleness. Every living creature. Don't matter what it practices, doesn't matter what it believes in, doesn't matter what its diet is, doesn't matter what its genetic history is, doesn't matter what it disbelieves, doesn't matter what it adheres to, doesn't matter what it avoids, doesn't matter what it promotes, doesn't matter how much it prays, doesn't matter how evil it is, how blessed it is. It's gonna suffer. It's gonna eat shit and ice cream from the cradle to the fucking grave. You ask why? Well, Alan had a good fucking explanation for that, a beautiful explanation for that. Why? Why? Okay, we're spirits. We're perfect eternal conscious energy. We're perfect spirits. Okay, yep, it makes sense. You're alive forever and ever and ever and ever. There's nothing you have to do. There's no way you can be diminished. There's no way you can be improved. There's nothing you need to do to maintain your existence as perfect eternal conscious energy. There's no way you can destroy it. There's no way you can threaten it. So there's nothing you have to do. So what are you going to do throughout eternity? You're going to use your ability to think and feel to create these fucking dream worlds, these dream selves. And so, like Alan said, imagine being able to, dream any fucking dream you want. Well, the first 100 million times, maybe it's going to be a happy-dappy dream, isn't it? It's going to be an orgy, Jack. It's going to be sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's going to be the finest of everything and blah, blah, blah. And after a while, that's going to get boring. And so you're eventually going to dream a shitty, fucked up, ice cream and shit complex, happy-dappy nightmare like this one. Obviously.
Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power
within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. The first thing he says to himself is, man, get lost. Because he gives himself away. The nature of love is self-abandonment, not clinging to oneself. Throwing yourself out, as in, for example, in basketball, you're always getting rid of the ball. You say to the other fellow, have a ball. See? And that keeps things moving. That's the nature of life. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that. Only you're pretending you're not.
With the help of Alan and his Hindu influence of remarking that this is a dream, that this is some kind of play, a stage play, a spiritual movie, eventually you realize, well, what is real? Well, life. What is life? Well, life is consciousness. Life is thinking and feeling. So eventually we define what is real as perfect eternal conscious energy. So nothing real can be threatened. Well, let's say perfect eternal conscious energy cannot be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So the only thing that's real are perfect spirits, and perfect spirits are perfect eternal conscious energy. So get rid of the word God, and instead say nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of perfect eternal conscious energy. And like I said, in Alan Watts' autobiography, which for the most part is a big fucking yawn, there were 2 or 3 places that were amazing. One is at the very fucking beginning of the book, where he just blurts out that we are omnipotent, omniscient entities. But he never really follows up on it, And then in another part in the book, he asked the question, and I'm paraphrasing, but he asked the question, what if God chose to have the dream of being a child who dies a horrible death in a war just for the convulsive shock of waking up divine? Waking up and realizing he's God. It was just a bad dream. I'm not hurt after all. So combining those things, along with the experience that I had with MDMA in October of 1988, where I knew that the answers to the philosophical spiritual enlightenment questions had to measure up to the epitome of simplicity, fearlessness, and good news, it just sort of all fell into place, you see. So we advanced the ball where Alan left it on the 5-yard line, 5 yards from the fucking goal line, and we we update this thing about the green room, and instead we say that we are perfect spirits, we are perfect thinking, feeling entities who are eternal, who have always existed, who are life itself. They have nothing better to do in their home state of awareness, which is spiritual sanity and sobriety. It's what you experience, when you're not having a dream. And since we have nothing better to do in our home state of awareness, reality heaven, our original reality, it never changes because we are it. We as perfect eternal conscious energy, we as perfect spirits, we as perfect thinking, feeling entities never change. We never, ever, ever change. Our home state of awareness, our home state of sobriety and spiritual sanity, it never changes. It is static. Some people are very repulsed by that idea. They hate that idea, when actually it's very peaceful, it's very secure, it's very trustworthy. The fact that it is static, it never changes. Actually, there's a sort of a line in the Bible, as I recall, where it says something like, God is keeping your room in your house in heaven. It's the same way that you left it. He's taking care of it. It's when you die, you're going to find that your room is the same room that you left, that nothing has changed. It's interesting that the Bible says that. Because, as I say, what we would call reality heaven, our home state of awareness, when we're not dreaming a dream, it never changes. You see, so rather than be, crushed by eternal boredom because of our monochromatic fucking home state of awareness, which is bliss compared to being a human, but nonetheless, after a while, consciousness is consciousness is consciousness. Consciousness likes to have some variety. It likes to have contrast. The contrast to the peacefulness of its own home state of awareness is involvement in a fucking dream, a daydream, a spiritual movie, where it forgets itself. Alan often played that up, that aspect of Hinduism, that perfect eternal conscious energy. He doesn't use that phrase, they don't use that phrase, but that's the best phrase to use. That's what you might say, an updated phrase. I can't think of a better phrase. I cannot imagine, if mankind lives another 10 million years, that a better phrase will come up than perfect eternal conscious energy. But nonetheless, perfect eternal conscious energy has nothing better to do than play hide and go seek with itself. But in more specific terms, it has nothing better to do than to, first of all, spend thousands of years just thinking out a story that it wants to live out in the flesh, or as a cactus or a fish or a virus or whatever the fuck. But it spent a long time thinking out every moment of this existence. So yes, me babbling now has already been thought out before the Big Bang. The I am of this character, Alexander T. Newport, the I am is like an inner commentator. And the inner commentary, it doesn't affect our actions, it doesn't affect our behavior, it doesn't affect our destined actions, our destined behavior. And all action and all behavior is destined. But the I am is, it's like I was saying in another video, I recently turned 54. The I am that I know as the I am is the same I am I've known since I was, 7 or 8 years of age, when the memory begins. I mean, I have little flashes of memories going back to when I was like 2 years old, but it seems like my sort of, how would you say it, just sort of overall from now on memory began when I was about 7 or 8. And so that I am today, I'm still the same I am that I was when I was 8 years old.
Well, just as you can't recognize light without the background of darkness, you wouldn't know that you were alive and real unless you had once been dead. When you trace your memory back and back and back and back, you come to a point where it peters out. And before you have your first memories as an infant, there is blank. Go ahead now. What would it be like to go to sleep and never wake up when you're dead? See? Go to sleep. You never wake up. Well, it won't be like going into the darkness forever. It won't be like being buried alive forever. It will be as if you had never existed. Not only you, but everything else. It will be just as if nothing had ever happened at all. But that was the way it was before you were born. And so what can happen once happens again. Because this blank that we meet when we try to go back before we remember anything, and the blank that we meet when we think about going to sleep and never waking up, and the blank that we encounter when we try to see our heads, and the blank out of which the stars shine, is all the same blank. It's you. And you can't see it. You can't pin it down, just in the same way that you can't bite your teeth or kiss your lips. Or see your eyes. The empty thing, what we fear as so-called nothingness, is ungraspable, unintelligible, because it is ourselves. Now, I'm not trying to convert anyone to this idea. I'm just trying to put it forward as an interesting thing to think over. Try it. Try it for size.
And the thing is most people in this dream world did not come into this dream world, did not choose to have this dream, along with you and everyone else. They did not choose to have this dream in such a way that they realize it's a dream. Most people are not here to realize this is a dream. You understand that. You understand how sensible and logical that is. Most people are not here to find the truth. They call themselves seekers. They say they're looking for the meaning of life. They say they're looking for spiritual enlightenment and so on and so forth. They're not. The majority of them do not want to find the truth because it's more fun doing the journey, doing the exploration, rather than reaching the destination and finding the truth. The truth is available to find if you're destined to find it. But the thing about the truth is that it won't free you from fuck all. You know, all them fucking gurus, all them people giving off this bullshit about how the truth is going to give you power and abundance and prosperity and cure your fucking cancer overnight and so on and so forth. They're just, you know, they're leading you up the garden path, but not necessarily maliciously or malevolently. They may very well believe what the fuck they're saying, but they haven't visited higher states of consciousness. They haven't had a breakthrough experience with higher states of consciousness, and so they haven't realized that this is a dream, that there's nothing you can get wrong, that absolutely everything in your life was planned by you. You planned it. Every fucking detail. Every good thing, every bad thing, every moment, every mood, every bout of depression, every injury, every illness, every disease, every makeup, every breakup, everything. You planned it all. Why would you want to believe that someone or something else planned your life for you or made you be here? It's more empowering to fucking believe that you are the one that's responsible for your existence here, every bit of it. And it's disempowering to believe that you have free will, free play here. Because if you truly had free will, free play here, and it wasn't destined, and you hadn't thought it all out beforehand, before the Big Bang, then motherfuck, you're a pretty fucked up person, aren't you? You've experienced a lot of pain, a lot of tragedy. You've cried rivers and oceans of tears over the years. And, you know, what's that saying about you and your ability to navigate your way through this free will, free play, you know, in a happy, heavenly way? Well, you can't do it. And the reason why you can't do it is because there is no fucking free will, free play. At best, your inner commentary is where you have free will, free play. You have the free will in your inner commentary, but you're in a boat on a river, and you can't steer the fucking boat, you can't steer the river, nor can you get out of the boat until it's your time to get out of the boat, and you're the one that destined how and when you would get out of that boat. You're the one that destined how and when you will die and wake up from this dream. And until such time, it doesn't matter whether you know the truth or not. It doesn't matter whether you believe in free will, free play, or destiny. You can't get it wrong. It's your dream. You're the one that dreamed it out. And so then the obvious question is, well, why would I dream all this shit in my life? All these fucking bouts of depression, suicidal despair, anger, hatred, self-loathing, life-loathing, hatred of mankind. Why would I do this to myself? And so, well, you know, as Alan Watts suggested, if you have the ability to dream these dreams, and they seem entirely real to you because you've forgotten who and what you are, you intentionally forgot who and what you are so that this seems real, well, certainly it's conceivable that you've had plenty of fucking dreams, you know, where it's a happy paradise. You know, it could be a world very similar to this one. Except there's no fucking pain, illness, injury, or disease. There's no fear. I don't know. I mean, that's obvious. That's obvious. If we have eternity to dream these dreams, then we have certainly dreamt very happy dreams before this one. And it gets boring after a while. You know, just like here, you know, if you had the option to eat your favorite food with, you know, for every meal, it eventually isn't your favorite anymore. It becomes boring. It becomes bland, you know. So it's the same as, you know, it's the same deal as perfect spirits. You know, we're conscious, thinking, feeling entities. It would get boring dreaming dream lives and dream worlds that are always happy-dappy and harmonious and friendly and wonderful and have no pain and have no fear and have no worry. Obviously we got fucking bored with that, because here we are, Jack.